HMS Victory lives many lives. She's a commissioned ship in Britain's Royal Navy, proud flagship of the First Sea Lord. She's the oldest surviving 18th century warship, victor of the battle that gave birth to Britain's sea power century. And, as the jewel in the crown of the National Museum of the Royal Navy, she must welcome thousands of visitors year after year, all within one massive hull. And now, 1,000 planks of that hull, Victory's wooden walls, must be removed and replaced. Where do you start? Well, as befits a giant warship, you build her a giant hangar.
It's a very complex structure we're dealing with here that needs to do quite a lot of things. The first thing I say is we need to get the weather off the ship to allow us to dry it out, because rainwater's the enemy here. So that's what the roof is about, and in effect that's what the walls are about, supporting the roof and giving us that contained environment.
Because of the design and the amount of time that's gone into it before we get onto site, it's made life a lot easier. So I have drawings for everything we build. There's been a few changes once we get to site to fit the scaffold in the dock, but basically everything's designed up front, so we know what we're building, we know the kit that we're using.
We want to get members of the public onto that scaffold structure where the work is happening, so you can see Victory peeled back. Nobody's had a view of Victory like this in 200 plus years, opening her up on this scale, and you can see what a first-rate line of battleship looks like when you've taken the skin off, and how complex it is caring for an object like Victory. You know, she's inherently biodegradable. She's made of wood. Wood will rot.
The finishing touch, as work on the hull begins, visitor viewing galleries, the length of Victory's starboard side, within what feels like touching distance of the shipwright's work on the hull. All will be revealed as the hull planking comes away, ready for inspection and replacement. Accessed for visitors via the Victory Live Centre, complete with information displays, audio-visual presentations and welcoming staff. Even a selection of hard hats. It's called Victory Live for a reason, with the National Museum of the Royal Navy completely committed to keeping the ship open for visitors, whatever, whenever. And now, a moment of truth. The first of the planking is removed from Victory's starboard side, the side that takes the worst of the wind and rain, sweeping across the Solent, and the sun beating down through centuries of summer skies. What is this iconic, battle-hardened ship to say to those working for her future? One thing right away: I've got a lot of rot in me, and it all needs to come out to give me my next century. I may be 250 plus years old, but I've got a lot to tell you.
What we're looking at was placed into Victory in the mid-1990s. Rainwater's penetrated it because they tried to find a new way to make an outer hull. Once rainwater's in there and the sun beats down on it, it warms up, we get a lot of rot, and the planking is effectively rotting from inside out. So today was our first opportunity to get that first plank off and have a look and understand what's going on.
All of the outer planking at the moment, we're looking at the midship section. That will all come off. We'll leave it for a period of drying, continue to monitor moisture content. When it gets down to a level we're happy with, we can start to put the new planks on the outside, which we will be doing in oak, which is how the ship was constructed originally.
Not original, but very present now, is HMS Victory's very own mini beast zoo, with her rotting wood just the ticket for fungi and insects, including a humble creature familiar to any gardener. Keenly interesting to bioscientist Dr. Victor Jeffries.
What I'm looking for in particular is evidence of fungal decay. So I'm interested in the fungi that are present in the timbers on the ship and what species they are and how they're decaying the wood. So I'm looking for things like the state of the wood itself, but in particular also things like these white patches of mycelia that you can see, which are the fungi growing through the wood. And in addition to that, any sort of insect life that might be present. So far we found millipedes and woodlice and spiders, but spiders might be on the surface, and some sort of very small beetles that might eat either fungi or decaying wood, or the larvae of other insects that eat decaying wood. So there's a whole sort of raft of different insects and fungal species that could be present, and we're looking at any of those that we find.
Where there are mini beasts and wood rot, there's moisture to be checked and rechecked as the ship's layers are peeled back.
The laminate layer that was against the wood was holding water, and was the teak and the Iroko right against the wood. They were holding water, so they have made the frame surfaces wet, but inside the frames are probably a lot less.
That's welcome news for the Victory project team and the shipwrights working to remake her by removing the outer planking strakes. But only time will reveal the extent of what they have to tackle. And despite a full suite of modern electrical tools, what these 21st century shipwrights also have to use would be instantly recognizable to their 18th century forebears: chisel and crowbar, hammer and muscle.
So it's removing this plank here. So we cut out this section, this whole square section. We can get bigger crowbars and stuff in. And then pull the rest of the plank out down the legs. So it's just about getting the starting point, so then chase it down.
So we're looking at the whole length of this. So it will be, yeah, a good couple of days' work, I reckon.
Thus far, it's gone well. The ship, importantly, is responding as we would anticipate her to respond, in fact slightly better in some instances, and we've not seen any real horrors, though I'm sure that's going to change. It's Victory, she always throws a curveball at us.
The strake work is well underway. What's happening to HMS Victory may look a touch brutal, but it's no more than she has endured when docked before. With her new support system offering continuous monitoring as the strakes come off, she's starting to yield up her secrets.
If we cut close to it, we could break it out.
Some of the frames are in incredibly good condition, actually, as if they've come straight out of the mill. Others are a little bit more degraded in distinct areas, which demonstrates that we've had some water ingress higher up the side of the ship that's tracked down. So we do have some concerns, but we also have some positive indications.
Starboard side complete, the deplanking work starts all over again on the port side. Decorative mouldings along the ship's side must be removed with meticulous care, so they can be put back again where they belong. A detailed map of the timbers assists the shipwrights, but what it won't tell them is exactly where the securing screws may be found, covered as they are with perfect plugging and years of paintwork.
Some areas the wood is like it's brand new and they've been put on very well, and some parts fall off pretty easily, so it's a bit, yeah, you have to learn by doing it, really.
As work on the planking goes on, Victory is revealing more of her secrets, and it's better news here on the port side of the ship. As more and more of her frames are revealed, the wood is in much better condition, sheltered away from the weathers endured by the starboard side. Unlike the blank, utilitarian approach of modern warship designers, focused on keeping radar signatures to a minimum, those who created the fighting ships of the 18th century were not averse to grandeur and decoration, a statement of the power and wealth of nation and navy. Victory is no exception. Now the shipwrights face another challenge: safely removing the decorative canopy over the entry port, through which many an officer will have boarded the ship, to the invigorating tones of the boatswain's call. It's a mirror image of its starboard side shipmate, already removed. Once again, with power drill, wedge and mallet, there's no room for error.
It is the the grand way of coming on board on the ship. Even when we had the gangways in without the scaffolding around, that really showed it off.
As a final part of the canopy leaves the ship, ready for conservation and restoration to Victory, another milestone in the multi-year project has been reached. A second decade of renewal is well and truly underway.
I think it's been quite an interesting process for us. In broad terms, the ship's responded as had been expected, but we've had a little bit of stop and start as we've been keeping a careful eye on that movement monitoring data and the load monitoring data, and she's just responded to weights being removed in certain ways. So an interesting exercise for sure.
We're entering this really exciting new phase where we're now going to start dealing with the structural issues that we found as we've removed planking, and then of course we can move on to that replanking phase.
And in the National Museum of the Royal Navy's very own Cathedral of Wood, work goes on to prepare for that phase, testing selected samples of oak from managed forests in Europe. Ironically, France is a leading contender to supply Victory's new planking, with forests covering nearly a third of our nearest neighbour's landmass. A story worth telling for the ship's many French visitors. As is another important element of Victory's replanking, its environmental benefit. Lead shipwright Jimmy Green explains.
This oak was all planted to be cut down, and also if you leave a tree in the forest to live its complete life cycle, once a oak tree gets beyond 150, 200 years old, it starts rotting from the centre out. You must have seen plenty of big old hollow oak trees. And as they rot, they release all the carbon they've ever stored back into the environment. So if you leave an oak tree to go through its entire cycle and go back to the earth, it won't have actually taken any long-term carbon out of the environment. Whereas if you let it get to its mature state, where it's still growing and not gone rotten, then cut it down and use that timber somewhere where it will be preserved, you're locking up that carbon, and then because it's managed, you're planting another tree in its place. And most trees take most carbon out of the atmosphere during their first 70 to 100 years of their life, and after that they slow right down. I mean, it's a real challenge, and it's one of those things you feel it definitely only comes along once in a lifetime, and it's a real honour to be involved. It really is. You know, I think all the shipwrights, everyone working on the project, whether they're shipwrights, management, archaeologists, whoever, they're all really proud to work on the Victory.